Hey everybody, I'm Karsten.
And I'm Brianne.
And after a little bit of a wait, we're taking a look at Conspiracy.
We won't be taking a look at all the cards from the set, but we wanted to take some time and talk about the legendary creatures from the draft set. And we're going to start off with Brago, King Eternal. He's obviously really good. He's 4 mana, he's a 2/4 flyer. Those are really good stats for a commander, especially one that cares about connecting. You'd probably want to play a few equipments in this deck, but if you're looking for a Voltron commander, I don't think he would be the best choice. And so, of course, the obvious archetype that comes to mind is a Blink deck.
There's all kinds of really cool things you can Blink with this guy. We've seen Blink decks all over the place. Blink is a very common, very popular thing to do in Commander, and Brago does it well as well.
That is the good thing about Brago that really does stand out, is he says non-land permanents, not creatures, and so things like Spine of Saw are suddenly really good in this deck.
Another awesome archetype is Super Friends. Some of the best Planeswalkers in Magic are white and blue. How cool would it be to just reset the counters after doing a big negative ability on a Planeswalker, or if someone said your Planeswalker went too many times, reset those counters and have them have to start all over on trying to kill him.
Now, you want to be able to protect your Planeswalkers, and you can't play cards like Ghostly Prison or Propaganda because they don't keep people from attacking your Planeswalkers. So you're going to have to look toward newer cards like Sphere of Safety and the Vows from the Commander sets. And so I would think with this deck, you'd want to play an Enchantress sub-theme because that's just going to kind of play together with all of your protection for your Planeswalkers.
Next up we have my personal favorite of all of the generals from Conspiracy, Grenzo Dungeon Warden. He is so delightfully goblin-y, aggressive, and he does something that's really unique and opens up the doors for a lot of really cool deck building ideas. So black-red aggro is an obvious direction you can go with Grenzo, and as one of the players in our own playgroup has already done, you should choose a specific power that you want to build the deck around. If you pick, let's say, 5 to be the power, if you build a deck with nothing but creatures of power of 5 or less, then you'll play Grenzo to be that amount of power so that no matter what you have in your deck, no matter what creature is on the bottom, you just get him.
And of course your other option, if you don't care what you dump in your graveyard, is just to play things to reanimate your creatures or to return them to your hand. They're kind of two different versions of the deck, and both have their own merits and their own weaknesses. Obviously, planning your power is going to be a lot more reliable if you're trying to win in the red zone.
And a great thing to do in the red zone is play lots of rogues. There's lots of rats that are also rogues, or that fall into the rogue archetype. And then, of course, what I think a lot of people are going to do is just going to play straight up goblins.
Goblins!
I mean, all you got to do is pay 1 for X, and you get like a huge amount of goblins out with Grenzo by itself.
And there's all the goblin lords, and so they'll make Grenzo bigger, and so you're going to be able to hit all the creatures because you have a couple lords on the table. Doesn't matter how much you paid for X for Grenzo.
Grenzo is so neat. I love everything about him, down to the artwork for Grenzo. He is such a neat card.
And next we have my personal favorite commander from the set, Marchesa the Black Rose. This lady is so aggressively costed. Even though she really wants you to play creatures, there's so many different ways you can build a creature deck with her. The really cool thing about her is she has Dethrone, which we really like as a mechanic because
out of all the multiplayer mechanics out there that Wizards has tried to kind of make work, I think Dethrone is the one it's just the coolest. Because in a Commander game, what do you naturally do? Whoever is ahead of the game, whoever has the highest life total, is obviously your target. And so, not only does it encourage you to attack the guy that's doing well, but once he starts doing not so well, someone else is the big dog, and so you go ahead and attack him. So it's a nice little mechanic that encourages you to spread damage around.
And so the first thing that you can do with Marchesa is take advantage of all of those random mechanics that have been made in Magic that deal with +1/+1 counters. I'm talking Bloodthirst, Undying, Unleash, Devour, Evolve, Graft, Monstrous. There's so many cool mechanics and there's little creatures. And so I think if you played this deck, you'd want to focus on the smaller creatures with those abilities. I'm not talking big, huge, monstrous dudes like Colossus of Akros. I'm talking smaller guys. And then you could play a lot of sack outlets because Marchesa brings them back, and then there's a lot of sack outlets that make people lose life or get advantages. So you're basically going to be cycling through all these small creatures and hitting people with them. That adds up to a lot of damage very quickly.
And of course you can play lots of big dudes. Red, Blue, Black is filled with dragons, sphinxes, demons, lots of really cool stuff. Sheoldred is fun, Garza Zol, stuff like that.
Basically, this deck would be a little different because instead of attacking them with a bunch of little creatures, you have a few select big creatures, preferably ones that already have +1/+1 counters kind of in their abilities, and then you can play a lot of ways to continually bring those back. So instead of beating down with the same 10 little dudes, you're doing the same 2 or 3 big fat flyers that if Marchesa can't bring them back, you can reanimate them and just keep beating face until you get there.
And of course there's artifact aggro. It kind of sucks losing white, but red does bring a lot of great artifact stuff to the table.
Yeah, Goblin Welder, Hoarding Dragon, Hellkite Tyrant, and Modular is actually good with Marchesa. All of those little +1/+1 artifact dudes, and that's the other great thing about playing artifacts in this deck, is artifacts care about +1/+1 counters or just counters in general, and so that synergizes really well with Marchesa, and you're getting some of the best blue-black artifact stuff.
Next we have Leonardo da Vinci, aka Museo Visionary Architect.
AKA Snooze Fest.
Hey now. Hey now. He brings in something new to the table, which I think is cool for all these generals. All these generals kind of bring something new and fresh. Maybe Brago a little less than the others. But Museo, there is a machine. There is an artifact combination or combination of artifacts that will turn Museo into this gross, disgusting powerhouse of a deck.
Yeah, because it's basically Arkham Dagsum decks, but it takes 0 skill to build.
I would say that it takes a little bit more effort to build because you want your investment of 4 mana to pay out. And so making that effective is a deck building challenge in and of itself. I think later down the road there are going to be people who are going to be playing Museo, and it's going to be this perfect machine that just grinds out these artifacts like crazy, and it's going to be sick. What else can you say? There's different artifact decks that you can do with them. You can play a more aggro-themed artifact deck, or you can play a more control-themed artifact deck. But in the end, you're playing artifacts, you're cheating them into play. One thing to keep in mind is Scroll Rack is insane with Museo, because you can rearrange the top cards of your deck and kind of set up for a good Museo. You can also take really big artifacts in your hand and put them on top of your deck so that Museo cheats them into play. So Scroll Rack, if whatever version of Museo you play, I think Scroll Rack is a must.
And last, we have the lady that I'm learning not to completely hate, Selvala Explorer Returned. I mean, I really don't like the fact that she's all like group huggy and everyone gets to draw cards, because anyone who knows me knows that I hate letting other people draw cards.
I think Brianne has said this on so many different videos. She hates group hug. And I'm not the biggest fan of group hug either. But what's really cool about Selvala is that she brings something new to the green-white table, because I'm sure people get sick of Captain Sisay. They get sick of Gaddock Teague. I'm sure people are starting to get sick of Tristani by this point. Soon enough, it's going to be Karametra. Selvala is unique in that she brings another new mechanic to the table, Parlay. Sure, it gives everyone something, but it also kind of keeps people from wanting to attack her, kind of keeps her on the table. So obviously a green-white beatdown deck where you're kind of just staying alive long enough to get your giant dudes out and just beating face with them is going to be awesome with Selvala.
And I think she'd actually be kind of good with elves, because she is an elf, and there are a lot of elves that untap other elves or other creatures. You get a lot of good stuff like Mirror Entity that you lose out on by playing mono green elves. And it's not risk the redeemed, everyone thinks you're playing tokens and kills you. Once again, it's an elf deck with a little more possibilities for not just dying because people hate elves.
You know, this elf deck would probably be a little more subtle. Maybe share some mana, pass some mana around, share some cards. They'd be huggy lovey elves. They would love on everybody. They'd be the Keebler elves, giving everyone cookies. So that is it for our look at the Conspiracy Commanders. Sorry that this video was a little bit late. We had a lot of people asking for the video, and so we just felt like we just needed to make it. These commanders are really cool, and it's really awesome to talk about them, to be honest. I hope you guys enjoyed our take on the Generals of Conspiracy. I'm Karsten.
And I'm Brianne.
And thanks for watching.